You should apply to specific programs that you think are going to provide you the education that you need. So whether you're limited by demographics or whether you are interested in a particular type of program, whether a large academic institution or a smaller program, I think the focus really should be on the programs that you feel you would best fit in. Those programs that will provide some guidance for you in terms of what your long-term career trajectory is important. So I don't advocate for applying sort of broadly all over the place, because you'll spread yourself too thin, you'll get distracted, and you'll get overwhelmed with all of the programs that you see. I think you really need to narrow your focus and narrow your scope to those programs that you feel are really going to be able to meet your needs as you move to the next stage in your education.
This is a hard question to answer. It varies. It varies based on your CV and how strong of a candidate you are. It varies based on where you want to end up and what kind of program you want to end up. So, you know, I tell people not to apply to one program, even if you know that's the only place you'd want to go, because I think programs really want to see that you're interested in the field and not just in their specific program. And beyond that, it's really hard to say. I would say a minimum of 5, and personally, I wouldn't apply to more than 15 or 20. But I know that a lot of people do, and there's not a lot of cost associated with that, so it's not unreasonable. So it's a personal decision, and it's just one that you need to make based on how well you think you're positioned in order to get a fellowship position.
I think in general the answer to the question about how many programs you should apply to depends a little bit on your personal situation. I think, you know, one of the most important factors that you consider when you're making career decisions is decisions about yourself and your family and kind of where you see yourself being. So you certainly don't want to apply to programs that you really would not at all choose to attend. So that's the first consideration, I think, your personal and your geographic and family reasons. But in general, I think to have the best chances for application, a person should look at applying to 8 or 10 programs at a minimum, and then be more selective perhaps on the actual interviews that you accept.
Yeah, how many programs should you apply to? That's sometimes a very personal question, you know, for individuals. I've seen as little as 3 or 4 up to 20. And sometimes you have to ask yourself, geographically, is what's important to you? Also, what do you want to look in a program? Sometimes you can get the program or the geography, but you can't get exactly everything, so you do have to broaden it. I recommend to residents to consider at least double digits now, probably about 10 programs, if not up to 20. It's not too expensive to, you know, apply to more, and then you can narrow it down as you get closer to interviews.
Usually for pulmonary critical care, it's a competitive field, and sometimes you have to decide yourself where you stand in terms of your own stature amongst the other applicants. You know, usually if you feel confident, I think about 8 to 10 programs probably is what I would apply. You also need to look at where you want to go. Are you going to stay regionally where you are training right now, or you want to go elsewhere? A lot of factors count into that.
I think you should consider casting a pretty wide net. Pulmonary has become much more competitive over the years, and there are a lot of outstanding candidates. And so, and the other thing is that, you know, it can't hurt to kind of get out and explore and see what else is out there. And so, you know, maybe you think that you know where you want to be, you know what kind of program you want, you know what kind of area of the country you want to be in, but unless you get out there and kind of check out and see what else is around, you may not know. And so I would encourage you to be as open as possible, and go check out as many places as you can, and you may surprise yourself and find that you really like something different, or something else may be a better fit.
The number of programs you should apply to depends on how competitive an applicant you are. I think the more competitive applicants probably should apply to 7 to 8 with a plan to interview at all of those. Applicants who may perceive themselves to be a little less competitive probably should apply somewhere 12 to 15 range with the intent of interviewing at 8 to 10.
A more competitive applicant might apply to fewer programs, somewhere between 5 and 8, but a lesser competitive applicant, maybe somebody who hasn't done a lot of research, or whose board scores maybe aren't as good, would have to cast a broader net and probably apply to 15 plus programs.